really happy to have so many of our youth people on here. You know, y'all are so enthusiastic. It's always nice to be around you and to know that your clubs are really working on youth service. It's just a very rewarding thing for everybody. And I recognize some familiar faces of people I've seen at Interact Conference and so forth. So it's good to have you all here. Our district governor, Ron, is running the meeting, and we're glad that he has learned all sorts of things about Zoom. He's going to become our Zoom expert tonight. He's on our next Zoom call. He's going to do breakout rooms. Woohoo! How exciting. And we have our chair of youth service, Rachel Moses, and we're glad you're here, Rachel. And we have Jerry Ware here, and he's on the youth service committee. And also we have Bruce Wilson, and Bruce does the Interact conference and does a fantastic job with over 700 of our kids. And so at this stage, I guess Rachel or Jerry, who's taking over? And let me say one or two things first. On Zoom, you know, what we're going to do is we're going to mute everybody, but that doesn't mean you're not to participate. If you have a question, at the bottom, there's a button called reaction, or you can wave at us. You know, don't not jump in if you need to. At the end of the evening, we're going to have a brief 3-question poll for you to see how you like this format. And can you think of anything else I need to tell them, Ron? Nah? Okay. So take it away, youth service, and thank you.
Yes. So, well, thank you all for being on the call tonight. Again, I'm Rachel Moses. I'm in the Cookville Breakfast Club, and I've been youth services chair for a couple years. And my background in youth service is strongly from the Youth Exchange Committee, and so I've been part of that committee for over a decade. But I'm excited tonight to have Jerry Ware on the call, because Jerry is not only a past district governor but also a past youth services chair for our district, and then also he longtime Youth Exchange supporter. He was probably one of the founders of Youth Exchange in our district, and has hosted, I think, over 27 students, if I have that number right. And so I think he was asked, I think, by our trainer Beth Stubbs to kind of lead tonight's session on youth services. So I'm gonna then turn it over to Jerry.
Well, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, I have a report from the RILA. There will, because of the virus, we have canceled the RILA activities for this coming year. We are still planning to do the Interact conference, and Bruce Wilson will be heading up that committee, and he'll be giving us a report on the Interact conference. Bruce, you want to step in and tell us what you have planned so far for the Interact conference? Bruce?
He's muted.
Can you unmute him, Ron?
How's that? Is that better?
That's good.
You're muted again.
All right. How about now?
You're there. We hear you.
Okay. Well, we're going to be in Pigeon Forge again, March 5th, 6th, and 7th at the Ramsey Hotel. And we'll be getting plans started up probably in the fall, according to what happens to school systems and how they're going to get together with those. Some of our Interact clubs have been having virtual meetings with those, but we've already got the hotel reserved. It's all for us. And then later on this fall, right around Christmas time, we'll start making plans for the activities that we'll do as far as entertainments and dinners and things of that type. This last year, we were down just a few people. We only had about 650 there. as opposed to a little over 750 the year before. So, well, I think we'll stay averaging around about 650 students with the interactors, the sponsors, Rotarians, and the foreign exchange students that come in.
And Bruce, can you give an update to the committee members about how many there are approximately throughout the district?
Okay, well, we have about 76 Interact clubs, some high schools here in our district, and they're probably a little over 2,000 students as far as members are concerned with those. We gain about 3 or 4 new clubs each year, and we actually lose a couple. Most of that just depends on who the sponsor is. Some of them retire, things of that type. But we've had some sponsors that have been with us for Cindy Stovall and Martha Long from over at Huntland have been with us over 30 years. So it's new and exciting for to see these new clubs with them and stuff.
Does anyone have any questions of Bruce?
Bruce, some of the people, you might want to remind them to register their clubs. I know when I was district governor, we had a hard time with knowing if the clubs were active or not, or if
Right.
don't they have to register their officers.
Well, the official date, I think, for registration is July 1st, but they won't done. But usually I will send out information. You can go to the Rotary, actually go to Interact with Rotary, and there's a space there where they can register their clubs. I usually will send out information to all the club sponsors right after school starts, and I will try to get those back out to all the AGs on where to go to in there. But yes, they require them to be registered every year.
Okay, are there other questions? Thank you, Bruce. We appreciate that, and please hang on.
I will.
Frank Hughes is here, and we have some disappointing news for this year, but we're looking forward to some other activities that Youth Exchange not been involved before. Frank, you want to tell us about what's up for the Youth Exchange this coming year?
Well, this year we're going to not host inbound students for this school year. We've made that decision, and you know, it doesn't mean that we can't be productive. You know, we are going to go ahead and start moving toward the academic year 21-22, and we've you know, Bill Nichols will probably tell you about the outbound, but inbound we're going to start talking to clubs here ASAP and trying to, you know, be prepared for a fairly large year next year of inbounds, because I have a feeling that we'll have a good number of outbounds this time going out. Bill, once again, will tell you about that, and we just have to be ready to be able to place a reciprocal number that way. We also will be doing an electronic exchange, which is kind of interesting for short term, and they'll just basically do it, you know, with Zoom, and it should be a lot of fun, and we'll see how that shakes out. But again, you know, we are not going to have any long-term exchanges this year, this school year. Ohio Erie may, but our district is not. And all I'll say is we're gearing up for probably to have. What do you think, Bill? You think how many outbounds you think you can send this year 21-22? You there, Bill? He's muted.
Bill, you're muted.
Am I muted? Okay.
We hear you.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. I'm hoping we can go to 8 to 10. We know that we have 3 students who were registered this year who've indicated that they will go out next year. One's from Chattanooga, one's from Knoxville, And I think, I'm coming off of memory. No, 2 out of Chattanooga. Take it back, 2 out of Chattanooga and 1 out of Knoxville. So that gives us a head start. Let me say this. My concern is this about promoting the Rotary Youth Exchange. Is finding clubs who have a Rotary Youth Officer, a YEO. And that's a real big problem. And we usually send out a letter asking who the YEO is. And you get responses back from some and some you don't. This year we had only 34 out of 65 clubs. That's kind of heartbreaking to think about it, that so many clubs, and Bruce, I know it maybe affect you as well, is that they're not that involved with the Rotary Youth Exchange program. And you said you had 60 some odd clubs or Rotaract clubs. I'd like to be able to get a hold of that list because if we're going to market, and which we're going to do, I'll send out information to every YEO or president if they don't give us a YEO, and hoping that they'll disseminate materials out to the various schools within their community. It's kind of heartbreaking to think that our clubs are not actively involved with the Rotary Youth Exchange.
Just to clarify, like the abbreviations. So a lot of clubs have youth services officers, or youth services club directors and things like that. But in Youth Exchange, we have a title called YEO, which is Youth Exchange Officer. And that is somebody that's going to be a dedicated person for their club to help promote the Youth Exchange program from their club, both encouraging outbound students to apply, but also encouraging their club and organizing them to host an inbound student. And there are some volunteer forms that YEOs can fill out to get them officially approved as a Youth Exchange Officer for their club. And so I think that's what Bill is referring to as far as reaching out to a lot of club presidents asking for that. But it may just be that they're not sure what the abbreviations stand for.
Rachel, this is Beth, and when I was organizing this meeting, I went through DACDB's database and went and looked up every club to see who had a youth services anything, and there were only 18, I think, and maybe a lot of these got email from me. Raise your hand if you got an email from me about this meeting. Okay. I think you might be looking at them, most of them. So that might be something we need to work on to try to round those up. And I don't know is it available? Can they make a designation of a youth services person on Rotary, on RI's officer list, or is it just, do you know the answer to that, Ron? I guess we need to look that up and see if they have a designation on RI as well. You know, certain committees are designated for the club, like membership, and I don't know if there's one for youth service.
Yeah, I don't know, so we'll have to find out.
Beth, this is Brent Rankin. I'm the Youth Exchange Officer for Oak Ridge, and we also have our Youth Services Director from Oak Ridge on here, but we did not receive from you anything. We got it from our club president, so whatever list you had might not be complete.
Or not, okay.
Don't know.
And there, you know, at the top, when you pull up a club's information, at the top it has all the officers and all the committee chairs and all of that. And there might have been a page 2 that I might have missed, but I will look you up, Brent, and make sure that you get on the mailing list.
Beth, I think this is Jerry. I think some of the clubs fail to upload all the data, and I think that's the problem. I think if we could instruct all the clubs to be sure to select a youth officer and a youth exchange officer, or one or both, for their club, and at least list one on their club. I think that would be beneficial, and our communication would be much better. Bill is very, very diligent in trying to recruit from every club and get in contact with every club about the possibilities of youth exchange, and he's done that. Oh, and Bill, I also like that new beard that you're sporting today.
I see that Bonnie has a comment, so.
Yeah, no, it's a question. I'm kind of new to some of these things, but I know a club in Washington, D.C. area, when they had something where they were transporting or dealing with youth, they had to be trained. You have to go through a training. Is there such a kind of a certification before they allow people to, you know, transport youth and everything, that you take some kind of training? Does anybody know that? Or how do I find out?
Hey, Rachel, you want me to answer that? Or do you want to answer it?
I'm not sure, Bonnie, are you asking in general for youth service programs or youth exchange in particular?
I'm asking for any of the above, you know, looking to appoint officers and getting it organized, because I have a role in external affairs and this falls under it, and it's new. So I'm not sure if I want somebody to be in charge of the youth, and I'm not sure, do they need certain training, and specifically if there's interest in exchange. I'm not sure our club, how active it's going to be with the exchanges. I assume it will be, but I don't know.
Right.
Right, Tony? I see Tony Wright, who knows more than I do.
So and Frank Hughes, as youth exchange chair, can talk specifically about the requirements that youth exchange has. But I think you're asking for a broader, something broader,
Yeah.
all youth programs that.
Like taking people to RILA and things like
Right.
that. You know, if you're driving them in the car and you're taking kids, I know in the other club you had to be, you know, go through training and be certified. So I don't know if we have that or not.
We do not have a district-wide, you know, training program that Rotarians who are working with youth must go through. So Jerry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a youth protection policy.
We have a youth protection policy, and every Rotarian who's involved directly with youth has to have a background check and have to be certified by that background check as being available for participation. There's also insurance that covers those people through RI concerning each individual if they have met the requirement of the club and the district through the background check. I'm not sure that it wouldn't be a great idea to start a training program somewhat, either by in person later on or at least by Zoom. I just think that would strengthen the program, and it also would put us on a sounder footing if there should be any issues in the future.
So that's fine. I'm also, let's go back to, you say they must have a background check. How do we define who should have a background check? Are there any guidance for that kind of thing?
Yeah, yes, there are. And Rachel's
it's
handled that. Rachel, you want to tell them exactly what?
Well, yes. So again, so youth services is an umbrella for several different groups. There is youth that has very detailed procedures, has a very detailed database. There's applications that are specifically focused for youth exchange, and they conduct their background checks. Now, Interact, and Bruce, you can jump in and correct me, but you know, Interact has their own system. We work through school systems, and so they have their teachers who are the sponsors, compliant with eligibility requirements for being teachers. But as far as Rotarians that are involved, I'm not sure if there is a particular process that they are going through. And similar with RILA, I don't think Don Randolph is on the phone right now for RILA. So we have not had like an overall blanket procedure for all youth services programs. We maybe should, and that is something that we can possibly work on this year, especially because some of us do have some more downtime with the youth services program, with not having active exchange students and back in. And really, because the youth exchange has a really well-oiled machine as far as our process goes, it might be something that we can pass along to the other committees. Anything you want to add about Interact?
Okay, I don't necessarily want to encourage a lot of additional rules and regulations, but people might want to learn something if they're going to be driving youths and taking them. Anyway,
one of the things that make it different for the other organization is that the RILA and also the Interact clubs, most of them have teachers as sponsors. Those teachers are by state law in Tennessee required to have background checks, and so it covers us. As the youth protection officer for the district, we accept that all teachers, we don't have to go and do a second background check on them because the state requires them to be in the classroom and to supervise children. And those are the people who bring them to the Interact conference and conduct the Interact meetings. It's generally a teacher in that school.
yeah, well, I would say I'm from Oak Ridge, and I would say in the Oak Ridge area, people have clearances, and those all are higher than background checks if that's the kind of thing they're checking, for criminal records and things like that. So there could be other alternatives in our area.
Could I add something, Beth or Rachel? This is Colleen Moss from Fairfield Glade. We actually work with the school and work with their policy with regards to transporting students. Oh my God. We transport students to RILA and to the conference. So it's really kind of what Jerry said, I think, what the school wants. I do have a question for about youth exchange. Our students have a hard time giving up the full year because that puts them behind a year in the graduation, but they're really interested in the summer program. Could you
Can
talk
someone mute their microphone? There's a lot of background noise.
I'm trying to talk over it. If you could talk a little bit about the youth exchange summer program, and is that going to occur next summer? Because we can work on that with our students, because they were, 3 or 4 of them were very interested in that program. But again, the year-long program, it really interferes with their graduation date, and they were very hesitant to do the year program. So some guidance on that would be great.
Let me speak to that, okay? John Cheney's in charge of the short term, and yes, we're going to be very heavily involved in the short term. I know Rob Dansray's son wants to participate next year, so we will be very actively
Here, let me go ahead and pick. Hey, Bill, you're cutting out. You're cutting out, Bill. We will be very active in the short term plan and our short term exchange. I wouldn't give up on the long term exchange, though. A lot of people do very well with it. And what I typically tell people is, it's a difference between graduating at age 18 versus 19, and a lot of people just, once they look at it that way, they relax about messing up their school year. But short term is available. We are active in it, and we have the ability to scale it if we need to. It just depends on the demand. I hope that helps. And if you want to go down into particulars, give Cheney a call, John Cheney, and he will talk your ear off.
Let me say this about long term, and one of the things that, let me tell you, the one problem we have is the State Department of Education. The State Department of Education, all of their funds for each school system is based upon graduation rates. And that's what really hurts us in our program. one of the things that we tell the student who wants to go out, and really the best year to go out is their sophomore year. We want to make sure that they take classes. Say if a kid wants to go out next year, that will be a senior, go ahead and take classes this fall, this spring, and even take another class. So you got 3 credits out of the way. And then when they come back, all they have to do is take the 4th class and maybe add 1 more class, and they can graduate on time. And a lot of kids are doing that. A lot of them are now doing it at the gap year. And so we look at that. So Colleen, that's how we try to deal with it. But just know that it's an uphill battle fighting school systems. Our worst enemy is guidance counselors. I mean, they chop us off at the knee in terms of, well, you need to graduate on time. But as I tell the kids, if they go into their teacher, to their counselor, have a plan in mind. Say, this is my plan, this is what I'm going to follow, and this is what my parents have agreed to. And usually 9 out of 10 times it works. So you have to take a positive approach to it. And that's how I feel about that. Let me say, now, before I got cut off, I'm having a lot of problems with internet now. We're going to start July 1st taking applications. End of November, we'll end the process of accepting application. All of it will be done online. In December, we'll do interviews. We usually do them in Knoxville and in Crossville, but this year we may, Frank has got 3 kids already lined up in Chattanooga to go out, so we may have more there. In February, we do training. March, we do training. April, we do training. And then in July, we go to Otterbein for the final before they go out. No, this is a 3-year program. It's not a 1-year or 2-year program. It's a 3-year program. The biggest problem we have right now is adjustments for kids who just returned from their exchange. And this group that we have right now really feels shortchanged in the exchange.
TJ, did you have a question?
I've forgotten what it was, Miss Beth. I'm sure it'll come to me. Don't laugh at me, Kelly Jones. I see you smiling over there.
Could somebody explain what a gap year is? I'm not sure everybody understands what a gap year is, but it's a good idea for some people that are concerned with graduation. It might be an alternative depending on a number of things.
Hey, John, are you talking about going after they graduate from high school?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can do that just as long as they leave before they turn 19.
So that's an opportunity that several students have used to get past that concern about graduation. They go after they graduate before they start college.
Had we not had the virus this year, John, that would have been the best thing that could have happened to all those outbound kids this year. As the gap year instead of starting college this year. I want to go back to youth exchange officer because I think that's important. I was looking in DAC-DB and I see youth services chair in DAC-DB, but I don't see youth exchange officer in DAC-DB. And I know that Greg's been really good about making sure the clubs fill in all their data, and so that's a concern. Is where is that? Because I didn't see it under another potential committee. I saw it at a district level, but I didn't see it on the club level.
That was my question, Beth. He's just reminded me because I just did that same thing. Margie and I set up all of our club committees for the upcoming year, and that was not a position that we could assign to someone within DAC-DB.
I think in my opinion, it's one of those situations where you have a youth services chair for your club. And then usually, I mean, every club's a little different, but a lot of times they'll have within the youth services committee a RILA coordinator, a youth exchange officer, a person that's going to work on the dictionary project if they do a youth, you know, that kind of project. So I think it's not necessarily a Rotary International DAC-DB plug-in type of officer, but we as the youth exchange folks want to encourage you to appoint somebody to be the youth exchange officer. And then once you do have a student that you're going to be hosting or that you're going to be sponsoring to go out, then your club, that's usually the time that club will get involved and appoint somebody to be a youth exchange officer. So that's why not every club has historically had that designation.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I just think that's probably why you don't have an accurate list of everybody's in the district, is because it's not an actual position that we can fill in anywhere.
Well,
So there's no, and if we call them something different club to club, there's no way for you all to know that, to sort it out. Even if somebody like if Fairfield Glade calls it one thing and I call it another thing when we set up our committees, there's no way for you all to accurately pull that amount of data from DAC-DB to compile a list.
Right. And I think when Bill was talking earlier about reaching out to YEOs, I think really what he was really meaning is like YSOs, the youth services officer. And then of course, and because usually they're the umbrella of your club that's going to then point you to the right person that's going to be involved in youth exchange. But then we do have clubs, because they've been doing it for years and years, that already have YEOs. Sorry, Beth.
I apologize. As I said, my computer. I'll say something about Beth. Beth believed in a project where 5 clubs here in Knox County came together, and we're looking at a low-income kids. We're choosing one kid each year. We had a girl from Austin East who went to France. We had a girl this year, Austin East, who went to Brazil, and we had a boy in line to from Fulton High School to go to Brazil. And without Beth's support with this project, we don't have low-income, disadvantaged kids going out. And Beth believed in the project. Thank you, Beth.
You are so welcome. That has just been a joy to have that happen. And, you know, you are the one really that we should thank, because I remember you coming to my office and I said, listen, this is not as easy as it sounds. Not only do you have all the youth exchange requirements, now you have all the grant requirements. And you said, okay, I get that. And so we made it happen, and it's great. I hope we keep doing it. I really do hope we keep doing it, because I'm sure we're changing young people's lives, which then change their families' lives, and, you know, their friends and husbands and spouses and everyone. So it's really a tremendous program.
Well, there's some communities like Cookville, Crossville, Oak Ridge, Morristown that could be doing the same thing. Chattanooga, Frank.
I do want to say that there are some, and we have identified some inconsistencies in DAC-DB. Now, DAC-DB is one of those things that's maintained by everyone. And so, you know, maybe what we really need is an administrator of DAC-DB, but there are inconsistencies in there. And I tried to pick up everybody who had anything with youth in the name, whether it was YEO or Youth Services Officer or whatever. So, you know, I guess the next thing to do is just to ask the club presidents personally, do you have a youth service officer, and would you please designate them in DAC-DB so that we can have a better communication line?
You can do that through the assistant governors, and assign that to the assistant governors and make them get that information for you.
Thank you.
That's a good suggestion. Do we have other questions about the youth exchange program?
I just have one more question. And TJ's on the line. If it would somebody be willing to come talk to the 3 clubs about a youth exchange, because we may have an opportunity this year, even with the COVID, for an outbound student. But to talk to the Interact clubs about that, so because I know, listening to you, I didn't give them the right information, and we didn't start soon enough. And so if somebody could come talk, perhaps, I don't know, TJ, what you think, if somebody could come talk and give them the information, and then they could decide. I didn't know about the sophomore is a better year for the long term. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and Cumberland County has some of our most involved youth exchange committee members in it. We have McKinley Tabor and Scott Shanks, both in Crossville Noon Club. And Scott's been doing it for 15, 20 years. He's had two children go out as outbound students. He's hosted dozens of students. And McKinley Tabor is our inbound chair. And so I think, and Scott's past chair of the committee, he's past youth services chair as well. And I think they'd be excellent people just right in your communities to do some presentations.
Yeah, Colleen, I'll make sure and arrange with McKinley to make sure that happens for the 2 existing clubs and the 3rd one that you and I talked about last week. But McKinley is probably the most exuberant person that I know to speak about youth exchange to anybody. And anybody who's been in the same room with him when he talks about youth exchange knows that I'm right. So,
well,
and I'll say this, Colleen, that if they can't, Bill or myself will, and so just give us an email. We'll be there when it's time.
Okay, all right. I just want to say that that's where 2 of our students got fired up at RILA when they listened to Mackenzie talk about it. So that's very true. So thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, we don't have Don on the line, but we have Mr. Downs is on the line, and he is very active with the RILA, even though we're not going to have it. Maybe you'd like to say something about RILA for this year? John Downs?
I guess what we can say about RILA for this year is, unfortunately, due to COVID-19, there won't be a RILA this year. But what RILA is it's a one-day high-impact session where we usually have maybe 130 high school kids all gather at Camp Nakanoa in Crossville, Tennessee. It's a one-day team building exercise. It gets into learning leadership skills and problem solving. What happens is these kids are selected because they have high potential in their communities or at their school, and they're sent to RILA without really knowing a lot about what it is, unless they had a friend or family member that had gone before. You're only allowed to go once. It's typically juniors. And so they arrive at this beautiful camp that's 100 years old and hasn't changed much in 95 of them. And so we get up there, and a group out of Nashville that specializes in team building called Adventure Works breaks these kids up into groups of about 10. And throughout the day, they stay together. And they go through various problem solving and team building skills. Now, the one thing that happens is there may be 4 or 5 kids from a school that would all go together. We know that and separate them all. So you're going to be on a team where the kids are going to be on teams likely with people they've never seen before. And they get to work through various problems in a beautiful outdoor environment. So it's pretty highly charged. There are zip lines and rock walls and swinging tires and lots of things to do. But it's all geared around coming up with a problem, identifying what it is, working together to come up with the best solution, carrying it out, and seeing how it works, and then adjusting the process and going again. At the end of the day, there's a person from each team that is identified by the person from Adventure Works, as the natural leader from that team. And then based on that, they're given awards. We usually have a couple of motivational speakers that go on through the day. RILA is, it stands for Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. And at the end, there are awards to the person from each group who showed outstanding leadership. So it's really high impact, relatively low cost. It's done differently by different Rotary districts. I don't believe that any district does it better. We limit it to 1 day because housing teenagers overnight carries its own special challenges. But by doing this, we're able to have a lot more kids involved. And we typically run around 130, which is quite a bit. And it's a real high impact 1 day event.
Sounds great. Questions?
Yeah, questions.
Do we have questions?
I wasn't prepared to present on this, but I hope I covered
it. You covered it quite well.
Well, I don't have a question. But I will say I got to drive a group of kids to Ryla about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was amazing. And I just walked around and just watched these kids, and as said, it was, everybody's divided up in different groups, and the many groups each one will do an activity. You know, they have all these activities, and every group will do it, and when it's all said and done, everybody will have done it. The activities are differed from climbing walls to solving puzzles of how to get through a little maze. It took teamwork, and it just was incredible. So if you ever get a chance to drive some kids up there.
The zip line and the giant swing, because I got on them.
She did. I've got video of it. If anybody wants to see it, I have the video.
The zip line was definitely popular.
Under that swing, trying to collect the change that fell out of everybody's pockets. No, we can't talk about Ryla without giving a shout out to Pepe and Ann Perone, who are also Pepe's an outstanding Rotarian and past AG from the Crossville area. I believe he's in the same club as McKinley and Scott, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, they make their camp available to us. It was literally started after World War I, and it's a girls' camp. They run a camp for girls for multiple generations there. It's a beautiful facility, 600 acres, 100-acre lake in the middle of it. It's hard to believe, just, you know, how beautiful this place really is, and they make it available at our disposal, and we really got to thank them for that.
Can I say? I want to say one thing. Having been on this committee for about 10 years, you want a fun committee to be on. This committee of Rotary Youth Exchange is a blast. You can't believe how we get together, and John and Frank and Rachel and all of us get to kid each other and bug each other. It's a fun committee to be on. And all of us have objectives, and all of us work together. If you'd like to be on this committee, we would welcome you. There's about 10 or 11 of us on it. And it's one of the best committees I've ever been on. And we get to have Frank lead this year, the Marine.
What could go wrong?
Oh, boy.
Was that a compliment or a cut?
Cut.
Well, it's the truth.
Well, does anyone have any other questions? I think we've pretty well covered our youth activities.
I don't have a question, but this is Brent. I'm sorry I missed about 5 minutes while ago. My computer left me, but there was some talk about the short-term exchange, and I don't know if anybody covered this, but the virtual exchange. I've been working pretty closely with Ohio Erie, trying to save what we could for those students for this summer. And this past Sunday, we had the first meeting of all of the students around the world that are part of this virtual exchange. And let me say that I think almost 100% of them plan to try to make their actual exchange next summer. So we're not replacing the actual exchange, but letting them get what they can out of this year. 62 were on that call Sunday. It was done in English, but there was a lot of interpretations and things going on. But it was a great meeting. There were about 8 or 10 Rotarians on with it. And that program is going extremely well this summer, I think. And the kids are getting a lot out of it. So I wanted you to know that. I think 11 other countries are teamed with us. And if someone didn't cover that a while ago, if you did, I'm sorry. But I thought you'd want to know that. And most of these students hopefully will still be of the right age to go next summer and actually exchange.
That's great news.
Yeah. Great news. Great news. Yes. Rachel, do you have anything more?
I do not. I think that I'm looking forward to hopefully having some more of these get-togethers this next year so that we can follow up with you guys who have already expressed an interest in youth service programs, but then hopefully we can build this group through some of the discussions we've had tonight as far as identifying or reaching out to clubs and having them identify folks that are interested in youth services in whichever areas that may be. And then maybe we can also create some trainings and policies that will apply not just to the youth exchange program, but to all the youth programs.
All right, one of the things I think that has come up in the meeting is the identification of the youth service officer. We might want to look at that as a possibility. One suggestion would be to have youth service officer on DAC-DB, but require each of the youth service officers to designate a specific person to chair both Youth Exchange, RILA, and the Interact in that club. That would make it easy. And I think that could probably be added to our DAC-DB database with a little encouragement from our governor.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you'll add it to the DAC-DB database, our club's organizational charts have those things listed as a position. And Colleen can tell you, I showed her our organizational charts last Thursday, but those positions are not listed in DAC-DB for us to designate.
Okay.
Beth, that's one of the inconsistencies we need to look at.
Okay, I hear you loud and clear. We'll have to work on that. It's a little bit complicated. As I think TJ or somebody said, there are a lot clubs call things different things. And so we've got to maybe eliminate some of what the clubs are calling their committees and only give them one choice or something like that is what we'll probably have to do. There's one of the things about the committees that's set up is a lot of them start with club youth officer, club secretary, club treasurer, and you'll look in there and the club has put its own committee in there and they left off that part and named it something else. So it's a little bit hairy, but we'll see what we can do. It's better than nothing.
All right.
Jerry,
other questions?
Do we have, are we finished?
We are finished.
Well, not quite.
Oh, sorry, Governor.
That's okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and we are going to have a short poll after I stop talking, so it'll be even shorter. No, what I say will, and the poll will both take about the same amount of time. Very short. Thank you all for participating in this. Everything that we hear helps us. I think anything we can share with each other helps. Clearly, I think one of the points that was made earlier is that the youth services stuff never stops, even if we're not doing something. And and the youth exchange is a really good example of that. We may not have any inbound or outbound year-long students, but they're going to be beating on the incoming president-elects at PETS orientations in September and October, telling them get on it, get on it, get on it, right, Bill? Right?
Right.
And so, you know, and so that work never stops, even if we happen, you know, to not be able to do something this year. I think everybody's point about identifying at a minimum a youth service officer for each club needs to be done. But I think, you know, my most important point is we have without a doubt in my mind the best youth program in our 2 zones. If you talk about RILA, if you talk about Rotary Youth Exchange, if you talk about Interact, every district wants ours when you talk about those 3 put together. And that's a direct result of the committee led by Rachel and her group doing a great job over all these years, and all the Rotarians, like the people who are on this call tonight, who are really passionate about youth services. So I really thank you all for everything that you do, because you are the difference makers in our district. Now, that's all I'm going to say. How about a poll? How everybody like to do a short poll? You ready for this? All right. John Downs gave me the thumbs up, so that means I must be able to do it now. So here we go. We're going to, it's called launch a poll. Here we go. Here it comes. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, who's first one back?
It doesn't tell me who the first one back is, but we've got 7 back already,
We
9.
have a race without a winner.
Everybody on this line's a winner.
Oh, okay. Frank, have you still got that Nissan?
Don't you dare make fun of my car.
That's amazing. Okay, everybody.
I've got 20,000 miles to get to 300,000.
Well, if the speedometer hadn't broken in 1967, you'd have been there.
Okay, here we go.
Sorry, Ron.
No, we're okay. We have ended the polling here, and I'm going to share the results so you guys can see it. Well, at least those of you who can see a screen here can see it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm not really surprised that the in-person over virtual was a bigger pull for this group, because these are people. I mean, these people they like to you know, do those kind of things. So
before we get off, I would just like to say that as the district trainer, I would be happy to help you with any sort of training at your clubs. I might be getting myself in big trouble by volunteering that, but if there is something that you would like me to come to your club and work with you on, I would be happy to do that. The second thing is, Scott, where are you? What club are you in, Scott?
Oak Ridge Rotary Club.
Oak Ridge, okay, because we didn't have a last name on you, so I couldn't email you.
Yeah.
Let's see, Kelly J, what club are you in? She hung up.
Yeah, I don't think she has audio on her computer, Beth. She's with me.
Okay.
Okay, who said that? TJ? Okay.
TJ, okay.
Yeah, she's the Czarina of Crossville.
Okay, good. Well, we just want to be able to contact you and get you on the appropriate list. And so thank you for that. And thank you all for your attention. And thank you to our presenters for giving your evening up and helping these folks along the way with youth services. What a wonderful part.
If you'd like to be abused like John and I have with Frank and Rachel, you're welcome to join our committee.
I get enough of that from my regular club members.
Hey, Bill, just go shave your face and leave me alone.
Well, I was eating dinner for my daughter's birthdays tonight, so I just finished with that. So,
can I ask a dumb question? And that is, what committee are you all talking about?
Rotary Youth Exchange.
But is that a district governor's committee, or is it your club's committee?
It's a district committee.
It's a district
committee.
Yeah.
So it's under the governor, the district committee.
Yes.
Okay.
Come join us.
We'll abuse you, Bob.
I'm too young. I'm too young.
I know I'm probably the oldest member on here.
What about
Are ya?
Rachel? Rachel's a youngster.
Yeah, she's the youngster. I'm 80, so.
You win. You win.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Have a
Christmas,
great
keep
night.
everybody young. Bye.
Thank you, thank you,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Bye.
All right, ending in 3, 2,
See you at
1.
7.